Today on Mr. Media, I'll talk to actor Joe Flanigan, best known for starring in Stargate Atlantis, who stars this week in the new Sci-Fi network movie Ferocious Planet. Stick around and be careful. That planet's bite is far worse than its bark.
Hey, did you know that you can listen to the latest Mr. Media on your phone with the Stitcher app? Stitcher is smart radio for your smartphone. Mr. Media is on demand and on the go with Stitcher. Download Stitcher for your phone today. Get the free download at Stitcher.com. That's STITCHER.com.
So much media, so little time. Who keeps track of it all? That would be me. This is Bob Andelman, and this is the Mr. Media Interview. You know, MrMedia.com, MRmedia.com. Stop by and check it out. There are nearly 700 archived celebrity interviews for your listening pleasure. The show is brought to you today by Audible. Audible is offering Mr. Media listeners a free audiobook download with a free 14-day trial to give you a chance to check out their amazing service. You can choose a free audiobook from Audible's library of tens of thousands of titles, including today's top bestsellers such as The Lincoln Lawyer by Michael Conley, Tina Fey's Bossy Pants, or even Genie Out of the Bottle by Barbara Eden. You could even download the biography of comic book and graphic novel legend Will Eisner, A Spirited Life. I wrote and read that one. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/radio. Again, that's audibletrial.com/radio for your free audiobook. Mr. Media is recorded live before a studio audience of space cowboys, including Clint Eastwood, Tommy Lee Jones, James Garner, and Donald Sutherland, in the new media capital of the world, St. Petersburg, Florida.
Doesn't look like the IRS building next door.
What the hell is that?
Whatever it is, it's pissed.
Everyone get back! You're definitely gonna need a bigger boat. Boat?
The great thing about Sci-Fi Network TV movies is that the titles tell you everything you need to know that you want to watch them. Megapython versus Gatoroid, Alien Apocalypse, Tiffany versus Debbie Gibson, Dino Croc versus Super Gator. Who could say no to a Saturday night with those characters? As for Ferocious Planet, which debuts this Saturday, April 9th at 9 p.m. on Sci-Fi, and stars Joe Flanigan and John Rhys-Davies, how can you not love a movie with lines such as, "Don't poke the alien"? Well, joining me today to talk about his role in Ferocious Planet is actor Joe Flanigan. He's made a career in recent years of appearing in science fiction and genre fantasy productions, including 5 seasons starring on Stargate Atlantis and an episode of one of my favorite sci-fi series, Warehouse 13. Joe, welcome to Mr. Media.
Good morning, Bob.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing? I loved your intro, and I just thought of a new great science fiction movie, Joe Flanigan versus Debbie Gibson.
I'm there. When can we start? And can I get the contract to write the script? Because there's some things I'd like to do. Oh, never mind. Well, tell us about the plot of Ferocious Planet. It sounds on paper, pardon me for saying so, but a little bit like an episode of Stargate.
You know, I didn't say that. You said that. But it basically involves obviously an alien planet and large, inhospitable monsters. So, yes, you're not that far off in that regard. And I think people who've watched Stargate Atlantis will see in this character a lot of similarities from the character I played in Stargate.
And probably, not at all coincidentally, right? I mean, these movies are there to connect you to things that are familiar, whether it's Debbie Gibson and Tiffany or Dino Croc and Super Gator.
Yes and no, actually. About these Saturday night sci-fi movies. I have been offered a number of them before, and I mostly turn them down because they're shot in places like Bulgaria in December and stuff. I mean, that in itself is a separate horror film. And I actually was offered this one, and they just made a notation on top that said Dublin, Ireland. And I thought, well, now that's kind of interesting there. And so I actually was immediately much more open to it, that it was Ireland. Then just coincidentally, the character was similar to the character I played. So there you have it.
And your character is Colonel Sam Sin. Again, sort of a play on words. I mean, Samson, right? No?
You're going to have to ask the writer because I kept screwing that one up.
Well, what is Colonel Sin? Now, there we go again. What is Colonel Sin like? What's his story?
Well, he's a disgraced Marine colonel who did something not unlike, let's say, what Oliver North did. Seemingly patriotic, but punished nonetheless. And he is put in charge of a national science lab, which is really an unglamorous demotion. And they have a experiment that takes place that goes awry. And then we all get thrown into a parallel dimension on a planet with monsters.
And the sci-fi, their Saturday Night Monster movies, I mean, they're deliberately ridiculous in many ways. They're drive-through movie throwbacks. Now, they're fun to watch. You got to go to Ireland here. What about to make them? Was it fun to make this one?
I had a blast. I mean, I really did. I had so much fun. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that I'm in Ireland, working with an all-Irish cast and crew, and I love them. And thankfully, they put up with me. And it's a blast. And to be honest with you, these shows, they are kind of a guilty pleasure, and they're part homage to the genre, and then they're part the genre, unironically the genre as well. So it's a fine balance to strike between earnest genre and something a little self-deprecating. As you know, Stargate Atlantis is very self-deprecating, and I think that was one of the really great qualities of the show. And so, these things have their audiences, and I hope that they're aimed at a very specific group of people, and I think those people will like this type of stuff.
Now, Joe, I'm kind of guessing that you didn't know what kind of alien monsters are chasing you on Ferocious Planet until long after you're done shooting. How do you look horrified not knowing what's gaining on you?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that, because that's something I try to explain to people. One of the biggest challenges, I've seen the greatest actors just get assassinated on these sci-fi sets. And they don't understand how you have to incorporate the visual effects and how you can really get a lot of egg on your face in post-production if you're not very communicative with visual effects. You have to know exactly how big is that monster? What kind of noise does that monster make? If I'm reacting to this thing, how scared do I need to be? In our case, they were not doing the post-production, the group we were with. So what I had was very little. And I'm hoping that my reactions are hopefully appropriate to the threat. But it is. That is one of the greatest challenges of science fiction acting. And, not to mention a lot of times the dialogue itself can really kill a good actor. But science fiction acting does not get the respect it deserves. And if you talk to a great actor like Robert Patrick, he will tell you how truly difficult it is. And when it's done well, you just don't notice it. Mm-hmm. And that's an accomplishment. You know what I mean?
Well, you mentioned great actors. John Rhys-Davies is in this. Do you guys have many... I haven't seen the movie, obviously, but do you guys have many scenes together, and what was he like to work with?
Oh, John is an excellent actor, obviously, and just a ton of fun to be with. We took him out on the streets of Dublin a little bit, had a few drinks with him, and he's a child at heart, and he's a great guy, and he's also incredibly well educated and knowledgeable about all sorts of stuff, filled with fascinating stories about his life in the theater and everything else. And so that was a highlight. And, you said that, do you enjoy shooting these things? And I think what is funny, the evolution that I've experienced as an actor, when my initial career was what is this project doing? Where is it going to take me? Will it accomplish the goals I set out? Now I don't even think that way. I think on a totally different level. Do I enjoy the role, and am I enjoying the people I'm working with? And that's really it. And that's the end of the story, because all the other elements are out of my control. And consequently, I do enjoy myself quite a bit more. And we just don't have control about how these things turn out and where they end up. And so you really do need to enjoy yourself. And so working with guys like that, especially the Irish cast and crew, I would go back gladly, anytime.
Well, that feeds into my next question, actually. Ferocious Planet is such a great title. Is there any chance for, return to Ferocious Planet, something like that, beneath the Ferocious Planet?
I think with enough fan mail to the Sci-Fi Network, it could possibly happen.
All right. People hear that. And I got to ask you a question about Stargate Atlantis. Were you sorry to see all of the Stargate shows kind of wrap up?
Well, I didn't have any connection with Stargate Universe, so I didn't really know anybody on that show, and it was so different than our show. I had very mixed feelings about it because our show was canceled and that show was spun off simultaneously. So I think a lot of us on Atlantis had bittersweet feelings about the whole thing. And more importantly, we as a cast are all very close and really miss each other and miss working with each other. And we also felt like we had worked very hard and done a very good job at not only taking the Stargate SG-1 audience, but expanding it and kind of trickling it into mainstream. We had just won the People's Choice Award, and those are mainstream type of awards for a science fiction show. So we were really feeling like we were doing very well, and obviously that's the nature of television. And, there's no real rationale to it sometimes, at least on the outside. And unfortunately, the new show was not embraced by the audience, and consequently the franchise is essentially dormant right now. And that does not mean it won't be resurrected, but it is dormant for the short term at least, which I would say the next year or two.
I guess Stargate fans would kill me if I didn't ask you this. If it had the opportunity to be resurrected, would you like to return to that?
Of course.
There you go, folks.
I will. Absolutely.
All right.
I for no other reason than to come back and just, tease and humiliate my castmates, which I look forward to.
All right, fair enough. Last question, Joe. What's next for you? What do you have lined up?
Well, I just did a 2-hour backdoor pilot that Walmart and Procter & Gamble produced. We aired it on Fox. Their hope is that it becomes a new TV series, but it's a complicated. It's a very different model. These guys essentially would buy out the airtime for the whole season, and therefore they would own the show and the commercials. And that is it's a very large business transaction that involves hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's a little above my pay grade. So they're in intense negotiations on that, and it may or may not happen. But regardless, I will move forward, and I'm in contact with Mark Stern at Sci-Fi about trying to get a new series off the ground, and I'd like to see that happen. So we'll see what happens.
Very good. Well, folks, listen, you can watch Joe Flanigan and John Rhys-Davies star in Ferocious Planet this Saturday, April 9th at 9 p.m. only on Sci-Fi. Joe, website, Twitter, Facebook, can people find you online?
I'm just so hopeless about that. I will start Twittering again. I've been out of my Twitter world. I'm going to re-enter Twitterland. How's that?
All right. Do you remember your at on the Twitter where people can find you?
It should be just at Joe Flanigan, right? Let me see. I think it's just at Joe Flanigan.
All right. Well, people can go looking. People have a lot of free time these days. They can go looking it up.
It is. I just thought it's at Joe Flanigan.
Okay. Well, at Joe Flanigan, thank you so much for joining us on Mr. Media today.
Hey, thank you, Bob. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. And, folks, for more original interviews with the stars of sci-fi movies and series, including Warehouse 13, Eureka, and Haven, surf over to our main website, mrmedia.com, mrmedia.com. If you've enjoyed today's show, subscribe for free to Mr. Media via email, RSS, or iTunes, and you'll never miss a show. You can also listen on many a Ferocious planet with a piece of string and a tin can in many locations. Show your support of Mr. Media by supporting our sponsors, including Audible. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/radio. Again, that's audibletrial.com/radio for your free audiobook. If you've got an idea for a guest, a comment on today's show, or would like to advertise on Mr. Media Radio, email me directly at bob@mrmedia.com. You can also follow Mr. Media on Facebook, Twitter, or our new YouTube video channel. Thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you sharing a piece of your day with Mr. Media. Thanks for listening.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin.com Brown from the Emmy Award-winning 30 Rock, and you know what? I wish I had 30 rocks to throw at Mr. Media's ass. Yeah!